You're on.
We are on.
And the latest agenda is in your book. It's changed 3 times.
Yes, but I'm going to ignore this agenda and stick with the other agenda. So, welcome everyone to the Township of Bedminster Township Committee regular meeting of December 16, 2019. It is 7:02 p.m. And I will recognize that we have a full quorum, a full attendee of all Township Committee members. Stacy. Ms. Sullivan, may we please have the Open Public Meetings Act
Yes,
statement?
Mr. Mayor, adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville and to the Burnsville News in Whippany, also to all subscribers, and then posted here at the Municipal Building as of January 7th, 2019.
Great, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a relatively robust agenda tonight, so we're going to do our best to move quickly through this. So everyone had the chance to go through the December 2nd meeting minutes, both the regular committee meeting and the executive closed session meeting minutes. Any comments that have not otherwise been provided to Ms. Sullivan?
No, Mayor.
Seeing none, can we have a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Permits and raffles, we have 4 permits and raffles. First is off-premise 50/50 raffle to benefit Immaculate Conception School, HSA, on February 22, 2020 at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, 5:30 to 11:30 p.m. Tricky Tray raffle to benefit Immaculate Conception School, HSA, on February 22nd, 2020 at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, 5:30 to 11:30 p.m. Off-premise 50/50 raffle to benefit the Westmont Montessori School on April 18, 2020 at Hamilton Farms Golf Club from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Off-premise merchandise raffle to benefit the Lamington Presbyterian Church on May 8, 2020 at Lamington Presbyterian Church at 3 p.m. Any questions or comments regarding the permits and raffles? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Public comments, twice each night. That microphone is open, is open and available for public comments. If anyone has public comments, there's an opportunity to do so now. Mr. Haggerty?
Anybody else wants to go first? Hello, Brian Henry, Fairview Drive, Bedminster. It's kind of a follow-up with something I asked a few weeks ago, and it's not really a level of investigation so much as a quest to understand something. Familiar with the third round housing element final, and that was signed and passed and enacted around or about June 7, 2018. There's a provision in there on page 19 that by July 1st of 2021, the township will either have approved inclusionary rezoning to permit 28 family rental units or selected developer to construct 100% affordable development of 28 units. Right around that same time, June 2018, perhaps Mr. Hickey can remember, the master plan review was also put forward. And I'm just thinking of concern that about half the time has passed. And I'm not sure about any new zoning ordinances. I'm not sure anything's used for it. And as you're aware, without going into detail, because at least one of them is still pending, the number of variance applications, only one of which involved residential, is I guess 4 since it's past May. And we're going to run out, I don't know if we're going to run out of time or run out of land, but I wonder if there's a plan afoot to actually have some hearings about rezoning or select an area in need of redevelopment and pick a spot for 28 units. It so happens that one of the applicants talked a lot about other things they did in New Jersey, so I read a lot about inclusionary plans and areas in need of development, and it sounds like you kind of have to work them out. They don't just happen. If they do happen, they don't happen the way you want them. So for 2020, will there be some action?
By July 1st, 2021, there will be action. There's master plan review that is still going on. There are elements that the master plan review committee is being considered. Once again, this is not through this board, but through the land use board.
Are any
There-
of those public hearings?
Right now, they are just a subcommittee meeting where there are considerations being discussed.
Okay.
And there's nothing been presented to the land use board as of yet.
I do caution that from the experience of other towns, of the way they write it up, it sounds like this is a long, arduous process.
I appreciate your comment on land use planning, Mr. Velardo. Long and arduous process. We've certainly gone through rezoning before in town. And Brian,
Everything's long and arduous once you reach an agreement or come up with a plan.
Thank you. It sounds like I should be asking this question in another venue if they ever have a meeting, it's not a hearing. One might think. Land use. You might be there,
I might be there.
but you're sitting right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Any further comments? Seeing none, we will move to monthly report discussions by subcommittee chairs. We will start with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. My only update tonight comes out of DPW. John had reached out for Colin and myself to have a meeting with a representative of Independence Contractors about the fuel station or the fuel pump behind the DPW garage. The pump has been failing, and John was out there trying to diagnose it. Thought initially it was and jump in, John, if I misstate something, but thought it was a faulty filter. So we had the gentleman repair the filter, but it wasn't that. Looks like the whole thing's going to have to be replaced. So we had a quote. We could pass it around, but the quote is essentially $21,480 to replace that unit. And we explored at our meeting, various options and why is it that this is the unit that we should be looking at. And what was explained to us that it's cloud-based, so that you can have all of your data immediately uploaded to the cloud. You don't have to run dedicated T1 lines to make sure that it's captured on a computer. Much more user-friendly, doesn't involve keys, actually inserting keys in and out of the machine. So it seems like it's the best product that's out there, and we did talk to the vendor about other uses and other options, but John, I don't know if you care to jump in on this, but I was satisfied sitting at the meeting that this was the right product for us vis-a-vis the options. But obviously we had to take it back to the committee to see what you all thought. I did confirm with John there's money in the budget for this, so it's not like we've got to move money around. And it's something that obviously we need because the folks are using it. And I guess we get gas at a wholesale price, so sending them out with a township cash card to the local gas station is not going to be cost effective for us. The existing site, the existing pump, I think, is from 2008. So it's sort of on the early side of its useful life, but it's within the end of its useful life as it is, and a lot of it's corroding from the base. I guess there's been some salt coming in contact with it over time, and it just generally is in disrepair, needs to be replaced.
Is this the pump itself, or is this the tank and the pump, or the combination of?
It's not the tank, it's the pump. The pump with all of the various and sundry component parts to it.
Okay.
It's the pump and the fuel management system, which keeps track of all the fuel usage of all vehicles within the township.
But the tanks themselves are okay.
The tank is okay. How about the environmental controls on the?
It's a Convol tank, so it's a double-walled concrete tank.
No, not for the tank, but for the pumping and for the nozzle system. So are the environmental controls built into the nozzles? Are the nozzles being replaced, or just the pumps?
The nozzles are going to be also replaced from
Okay.
the pump. So it's the whole pump itself.
Okay.
So I believe it's on for new business anyway. It's in a resolution or new business at that point in time, so.
And the expected life of this is going to be, what, 15 to 20 years?
Well, it could be. I mean, it's the software that we're currently running on right now, which is the Phoenix software. We would have to upgrade that now because we're having issues with that software, and it's about $4,000 to $5,000.
Right.
And we're not even sure if it's going to run on, the Windows 10 that's out there currently.
So from a technology standpoint, you're at the end of life on that, because
Correct.
you're relying on that technology.
Correct.
The new pump lasts, how,
About 10, 15, 12, 15 years, something like
okay,
that.
so you're looking at a $1,500 investment per year to run a business,
Right.
basically.
So when the gentleman came out to redo the filter, because we thought we were having an issue with the filter, not only the filter wasn't bad, he found that the pump itself, the fins within the pump system itself was having issues. So at that point, we made a decision to change out the pump also, the initial.
Yeah, the other thing I would just add to this, the other that came out of our discussion was maybe also an investment in a Ring video camera that would be angled down on the pump itself. So just making sure that folks that are using the pump are authorized.
Haven't had a problem, but there's always that opportunity. So
Okay.
it's, I believe, on the agenda for later on in the discussion. We can vote it. We had to have resolution because it is a capital improvement, and a large purchase like that needs to have an authorization from the Township Committee by resolution. And I believe the number has actually changed a little bit from the quote that I had given you. The new quote came in at like $22,000 because he added, the bollards were back there, the concrete bollards. He's going to put covers on each one of those bollards to dress those up because they're full of water and everything else.
Yeah. That's my report.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, I have no report this evening.
Good for you.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but I have nothing for you.
Committeewoman Santucci.
Mayor, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Very well, thank you. The only thing I have is that we're working with council on a couple of personnel updates to our personnel policy. So we're still in the process. So really nothing for open.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Committeewoman Lonsky.
How are you tonight, Mayor?
I'm doing fine.
Excellent. I have a couple of things. I'll take these guys' time. We had an environmental commission meeting on December 4th. And first, before I forget, the next meeting of the EC will be January 15th because the Monday meeting would be January 1st, and I don't think they want to do that. But after the January 15th meeting, they will go back to having it on the first Wednesday, so that'll be February 5th, and then continuing through the rest of the year on the first Wednesday. Let's see, so the first thing I want to mention is that the testing happened with the EV charging stations, and they are up and running, and they're doing fine. But then continuation of support of the charging stations and EV technology just in general. Dawn March, if she hasn't already, will be contacting Judy just to add a question to the environmental review scoping checklist to see if they can get included a question on EV charging infrastructure to new building construction projects, just to get kind of feedback, not making, telling anybody that they have to put infrastructure there, but just to get kind of an update and awareness of how things are going. Community Tree Recovery Program, I know we mentioned that before. John Coates from EC has volunteered to coordinate some of that paperwork, and he and Doug, I think, who Doug has already reached out to, the Hills Master Association presidents. I think those two can coordinate that program, and we'll get some more trees into town. And last is an Insect Armageddon seminar. You guys know how much I love my pollinators. Well, because I like to, they're fun, the bats and the butterflies. Dawn March actually attended that seminar. It was down at Raritan Valley Community College, put on with Raritan Headwater Association, a group we all know and love. It was given by Dr. Hans de Kroon, a professor of plant ecology at Radboud University in the Netherlands. The presentation was on the decline of insect populations in Germany. Possible explanations for this include things like invasive plant species and pesticides, which I know Bedminster is concerned with. He's also discussing reasons why we should be concerned. He noted that in the area that they studied, obviously a small spot, but important, 80% of all plants, including many agricultural crops, rely on insects for pollination, and insects are an integral part of the food web for birds and other animals. So as an agricultural community, I feel this kind of information is important for us to keep on top of. And just if anybody wants to find out a little bit more about the seminar, Burnsville News covered it in their December 3rd edition. They did a really good job with that. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. So I just want to report on a couple items. Lease Board, Mr. Hickey and I, once again, are not eligible to hear the application on Lamington, but my understanding is that there was a meeting last week, and once again, decisions or the hearing is going to be carried over to February for additional information to be, to be presented by the applicant. So that application continues. I do want to make reference to a matter that came to my attention last week. I have had a brief discussion with Judy about this. So I got a call from a constituent saying that the water in her building in the hills in Cortland was out. It had been out for the entire day. And we made some phone calls, spoke to the resident, spoke to one of her neighbors, and they were getting not terrific information out of their property manager, and it would seem to be limited to that one building. This is building 83 in Portland. So I stopped by the residence that evening, and the water had been restored, and once again there was, a mix-up from what they were hearing from the property manager as to the cause of the outage. And I asked Judy to investigate and follow up with New Jersey American and the property manager to really sort of come to the bottom of this. And it was troubling in a couple ways. Certainly no advance notice and being cut off of water. And it seemed to me both a sanitation, Board of Health, health-related issues, as well as not sure if there was any interconnect with the fire suppression system, if there is any fire suppression system out there. But it was troubling, and it was troubling that it could be done without notice to the residents, and if the notice was coming to the property manager, it certainly was not being distributed back down to the residents. It was also disturbing that the fact that if it was a health, or if it is a health situation, apparently there is a health situation if there's no water there, that there once again wasn't an advance notice to the municipality. So I asked Judy to reach out to New Jersey American and see if there's just anything out there within the Board of Public Utilities and those regulations that would require notice. And even if there isn't, to suggest to New Jersey American that in the event this happens again, that there be notice given to the municipality.
We're still trying to determine whether the water was actually turned off, as the property manager is indicating, or was there some other construction, malfunction, repair that was being done that needed the water to be temporarily turned off. We haven't.
The last,
The full picture.
the last indication from the property manager, and this was over the weekend, indicated that it was for a mix-up in the payment of a water bill. And we've had this issue elsewhere when there's water, or not so much water, I guess power, to be turned off, right? Because then you get into flooding issue, you can get into heat, freezing issues, pipes burst. You know, the ramifications are not just...
The utilities notify the town, very, very quickly, let us know what's going on. We let the fire company know, we let the inspectors know, we let, all the involved parties know. In this particular case, we were not notified, and we're trying to drill down as to, what's their procedure, because this would be followed, I guess.
Right, so I just want to give, thanks to Judy for taking this on and looking further into this issue, and hopefully we can come to not just an explanation of what happened, but also a path forward to make sure we don't see this type of event further. And that's really all I'm going to do on for my subcommittee, environmental. We certainly want to express tremendous appreciation for a job well done to Tim Walters. So Tim's been chair for 1 year, right?
Yep.
So he replaced Renee, and Renee replaced Colin. Tim was a great leader on environmental, had a lot of projects that he took up and shepherded all the way through, including the EV charging station, most notably.
Farmers market.
Farmers market. He was active in farmers market out there every Saturday with his flags and parking. Moth Night, something else that he picked up on and ran with. So, you know, I had a conversation with Tim, and certainly the obligations that he has as someone who runs a business essentially by himself. He was being pulled in many different directions, and we appreciate Tim for all the time that he was able to vote to environmental and to the town. And while he may be leaving the Environmental Commission, we will make sure that he is available when needed, including for parking at the farmers market, which he will gladly volunteer for again. So thank you to Tim Walter. With that, Ms. Sullivan, may we have the administrator's report?
Yes, a few things. Back on December 3rd, John Vance accepted delivery of the original Bedminster Township Charter that was donated to Bedminster Township from the Forbes family. The charter itself is maybe 2 by 3 in a picture frame, but the display case was that Forbes family was displaying it in was also delivered, and if you've been in our lobby lately, you can see it. It's what, about 9 or 10 feet high?
9 feet tall.
9 feet tall.
About 4 feet
4
wide.
feet wide. It's rather large. Beautiful, but it's very heavy. So we've taken possession of these 2 items. Yet to be determined where their home will be. But we have them, and they're ready to be shared with everyone. I'd like to give you an update. The Betty Merck dinner and the reorganization meeting this year, Friday, January 3rd at Fiddler's Elbow.
Friday.
We are currently taking reservations. The reservation form is available on the website, has been mailed out to all boards and commissions and past township officials, and reservations are coming in. So there's forms in the back of the room if you didn't get one and you like one, but it should be a nice evening for everyone. I wasn't mentioning that, but that's an example of what might be on the table if you approve.
Okay.
I'm going to skip down to the bottom of my report. As you know, it's coming budget time. Traditionally, we hold our budget meetings on the Monday nights in between our regular Township Committee budget meeting, or regular Township Committee meetings. So I'm just going to throw out some dates. In January, we have our reorganization meeting on the 3rd, and we'll have a Township Committee meeting on the 13th. And then we would, following week is President's Day. We're not, Martin Luther King Day. We're not having a meeting that week, but we would then start our first budget meeting on January 27th, which is Monday, followed by February 10th, February 24th, March 9th, and hopefully introduce the budget on March 16th.
For the record, Committeewoman Santucci
Will not be there.
is smiling and looking over at Gina.
You can attend as a member of the
I
public.
can.
They're open. You're more than welcome.
I'll be
And the last item, we've talked a lot about this year about the potential purchase of an all-electric vehicle. We have our EV charging stations out in the parking lot ready to go. But Colin has been working with Sarah, our TPA, and Ken Rogers, our construction official, who has $57,000 in his budget to purchase such a vehicle. The problem is, the only all-electric vehicles, maybe Colin, if you want to explain, they're only available online?
Well, there's a couple. The Bolt and the Leaf are available, but they get so-so reviews, and they're not as efficient as an all-electrical vehicle like a Tesla. But unfortunately, that vehicle, which is advertised at about $35,000, actually comes out to over $40,000. And as you well know, then since it's not under a state contract, it would have to go out to bid, And there's no place to bid, because when you buy a Tesla, you go online, you configure it online, and you order it. There is no negotiation, there is no dealer, so there's no way to purchase it right now. I did reach out to Tesla Corporate to see whether or not they supported municipalities, because obviously we're not the only ones who could be in this situation, and I got no response. So there's no straightforward way to purchase that type of vehicle right now until it comes under state contract. So I think we should hold off for now, because I think long-term, as we look at vehicles for construction, code enforcement, and others, EV's the way to go. They're much less complicated. They have on the order of magnitude of 20 moving parts as opposed to 2,000 moving parts for a combustion engine, which means that maintenance is very small, if nothing. You know, you change the washer fluid every once in a while. So I think we should hold off on purchasing anything until we can buy it under a contract or for a reasonable price.
In the meantime, Ken Rogers asked, were we going to continue the practice which we've had to use the construction funding? We would purchase an SUV that would be used by the construction department, and then after about a year's use by that department, they've been transferred to the police department for their use, which has been annual rotation now for several years. This year, we were looking at possibly, if we were going to purchase a vehicle in that manner, to rotate that vehicle to possibly another department. But in the meantime, the chief met with me last Friday. He's had a couple of car gear accidents, a couple of other minor accidents, and his fleet is not in the same shape it was in earlier this year. He asked me, since we're working on budgets now, he was going to put in for 2 vehicles next year in his budget. Normally he gets 1. I said, well, we still have money in the construction budget that we could purchase an SUV this year that we would then rotate out. Once that arrives, we could rotate out the old SUV that this construction department is using this year to the police department. He said that would be great, and that would certainly solve his issue and solve his problem, and then he could just have the 1 vehicle in his budget next year as he usually does. So if we're going to do that, we need to act rather quickly, because we need to get a purchase order completed in 2019. The state contract price, we have the $57,000. The state contract price is just about $32,000 for police interceptor, which have been the SUVs that we've been purchasing, over the past several years. So that's my question to you. Is that something you would be supportive of to make that purchase before the end of this year?
Is the current SUV up to police standards?
So the SUV that's sitting in the parking lot, currently being used by construction, is a police interceptor, yes. It's ready to go to the police department, so the idea would be we would order a new one. When it arrives, it's going to take several months. Once it arrives, the one sitting in the parking lot would go to the police department right away. So, and that would solve their need. There would still be a remaining $25,000 in the construction department that could either A, be canceled or surplus, could be used to purchase some other item, but as I said, that we only have till the end of 2019 to do so.
Do we need a decision now?
If we're going to make the purchase, I kind of need to do the purchase order sometime this week.
And that doesn't require resolution?
The price I'm
That's-
quoting you is state contract.
State contract, so straight through?
Right, and it's about $32,000, it's $31,998.95. Just under 32.
And 99 cents?
And
95 cents.
It's like we have,
No objection.
the chief is saying that there's a need for it.
The remaining $25,000, like I said, Ken Rogers had reached out to Colin earlier this week about potentially maybe using that for some other funding for a purchase of electronic plan cable. I'm not sure that I understand, the need for it at this time, or the 25,000 should possibly be used for some other purpose. I don't know if we
So
need anything.
the new vehicle goes to construction,
Correct.
and then
The one in the parking lot would go to the police department.
And then the price to, whatever we need to do to label or brand the new, well, the old SUV for the police.
That would come out of the police funding
Okay.
that we put in, that they get in the capital budget each year.
And this is all $2019 rather than 2020.
The $2019 for the vehicle, the outfitting it, because the police department currently doesn't have any, I would say, guts to go into the new vehicle. They would need to purchase that with their capital money that they have.
Okay, this would be a transition of all the electronics, the computers from one vehicle that gets retired into the new one.
Correct.
Okay. So is there a consensus from the committee to move forward with the PO?
For the vehicle, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the remainder we cancel out and put into surplus?
So the remainder, approximately 25,000 would be canceled and could go to surplus at this time.
Then we're going to sell anything?
Eventually, we would identify, we just got done with our annual auction that we do with the county. We got about around $15,000 we got back from that, which is revenue, miscellaneous revenue. So, yeah, we normally do that every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think we have direction from TC to proceed.
thank you very much.
Okay. No discussion on introduced ordinances, no introduction of ordinances. We do have a public hearing of ordinances. This is ordinance 2019-013, an ordinance creating section 319 entitled Property Maintenance BN Village Neighborhood Zone to be added to the revised general ordinances of the Township of Bedminster. This ordinance creates regulations for property or buildings characterized by deteriorating or abandoned buildings or land which exhibit a lack of continued maintenance and upkeep, including land or a building with debris, litter, deteriorating paint or siding, accumulation of trash or junk, or any which may tend to depress the aesthetic value of a neighborhood. We have a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, so we will start off with Committeeman Stevenson and Mr. Bellardo, whoever wants to lead off with the summary of the
We've
ordinance.
spoken about it before, and so unless anyone has any further questions, I don't intend to reiterate the entire history of this.
Okay, this is once again limited to non-residentials?
Yes, this is a non-residential ordinance. It would cover the two village sections. One would be in Pluckerman, one would be down Main Street. And I think it captures the properties in question that is sort of the bane of everybody's existence here. This is something that the township residents have been really pushing for. They've been very vocal about this, that there's some homes in town that are just not keeping up.
You say homes, but it's not...
Properties, my bad. Not non-residential. Some properties that are just, they're in a state of dilapidation and it's hurting the surrounding community. So, initially our first take down this road was a health and safety type thing, and conference with council without getting into the substance of what was said. We were sort of discouraged from doing that. And obviously we want to pass ordinances that have teeth and that we can actually put into place and get relief when needed. So what we did is we tasked Mr. Bellardo to make a very limited, narrow ordinance. We specifically incorporated into the ordinance that there shall be no private cause of action, meaning one business owner cannot march down to town hall or the court and file a suit against another based on this ordinance. This is something that only the township would be enforcing. And that way we sort of keep our hands around the issue and it's not a free-for-all, if you will, with business owners going against business owners saying, I don't like the way the shrubs are being kept, or I think that another coat of paint needs to go on the house or the residence structure, I should say. So that's really where we're at. Self-explanatory. We have the ability to, the business owner has the opportunity to be heard, obviously, and can come in and challenge any sort of finding. That hearing, I guess, would come here to this committee. And then we would have the ability to either reject, accept, and/or enforce the summons. And we'd have the ability, ultimately, if we had a really recalcitrant property owner, we would be able to authorize the public work or private contract to go in and do the work for us, if you will, or for the township, and then lien the property for the amount of that work. So those are your quick hitters and big ticket items in this thing.
So this would still be complaint driven, so while they may not be able to have a private cause of action, they could certainly call the code enforcement or construction code official.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Let's open the public hearing for public comment on ordinance 2019-013. Any members of the public have any questions regarding this ordinance? We have a motion to close the public comment.
I'll make that motion.
Second that?
Again, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will need a motion to approve ordinance 2019-013.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci? Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so 2019-013. Doug, we've got that ordinance in place. And so I want to thank you, and thank you, John, and everyone else who worked with Doug on putting that ordinance together and getting it through.
Yeah, I think the residents will be happy about that.
Good. Consent agenda, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items on the consent agenda. Unless anyone wants to pull anything off the consent agenda, may we have a motion to approve the 6 resolutions on the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I'll second.
This requires a roll call vote as well. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
So we have 3 resolutions that are not on the consent agenda, and the first one is 2019-127, authorizing the current fund transfer of funds in the total amount of $33,000. Ms. Sullivan?
This is, well, this time of year, there's certain budget accounts that are falling a bit short and others that are more full than others. The primary transfer, if you look at the resolution, you can see what the shortfalls are. Primarily, mostly involved with some professionals, some legal. There was some salaries moving around with the staff changes we had this year. That also requires some of the other transfers. But the monies were, in other words, in other accounts that just need to be moved. It doesn't create additional money.
Any further questions? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve Resolution 2019-127.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. Resolution 2019-128. This is the resolution supporting the DOT project for Rattlesnake Bridge Road over I-78 bridge. This is the repair replacement project that we've discussed previously. Ms. Sullivan, quickly, we just want to explain what the resolution
We've
accomplishes.
had several meetings. We did have the contractor send us a letter that we discussed, requesting to move up the timeline of the project and condense the project, with closing the bridge entirely rather than doing one lane at a time. Initially, we kind of delayed the discussion Emergency Services, Fire and First Aid, we're hoping to get some sort of an emergency U-turn on 78 with the bridge being closed. We met with DOT on the 5th of December, and they brought a whole crew of people. But basically, that's not something that they're able to do on a temporary basis. So with that being said, Fire and First Aid said their next best scenario, best case would be to close the bridge for the shortest amount of time possible. So that's what the contractor is asking to do by moving the dates up. The other concern was the school. The school, it impacted 3 students. The school had made alternate transportation for those 3 students, so they did not have any complaint with the change. The other concern was local business, being Fiddler's Elbow. They have a large event around that time in July. We didn't want to impact that, so this schedule brings everything completed by June 26th, so that it would help them as well. So with all that being said, DOT said they would comply, allow it to happen, as long as we did a resolution of support, and that we had a similar resolution of support from the county. The Rattlesnake Bridge is actually a county road. I sent the draft resolution to DOT last week. They reviewed it. They tweaked it a little bit, which you'll see on your papers. Some of their comments are in different colors. I got a call today from Somerset County Engineering, asking for us to just review our copy as well. They are also supportive as long as we're supportive. They're going to do a resolution as well. Their resolution will follow at some point in the near future. Not sure when that will be. They're going to use our resolution as model. So that being said, DOT is just hoping to get this going as soon as possible. The contractor is already under contract and is working, but as far as the actual shutdown of the road, they need this. I think that's about it. John, we're good?
You said Fire and First Aid is satisfied with, even though they didn't get what they,
So they didn't get the emergency U-turn, the temporary U-turn. The fire chief stood up, he said, okay, if we can't have that, then, you know, shut it down for the shortest amount of time possible.
right.
And they'll rely on mutual aid and so on.
Now, the one thing Ms. Sullivan did not mention is that when we had DOT here, we talked about if we do go to the 4-month schedule, that would the contract be revised to reflect that there'd be liquidated damages and that the 4-month schedule that the contractor is requesting gets locked up, gets put in stone. And the response from DOT was once we give them the letter of support, that they go back and then revise the contract and then lock that contractor into that 4-month, so that the 4-month promised shutdown is actually something that is enforceable against the contractor from DOT. So once again, remember that the contractor is requesting this in lieu of the construction schedule that they've already been approved by through DOT. This shortens that time frame, so it's an adjustment, but still DOT will now be able to enforce that 4-month contract.
And is it the idea that the liquidated damages would flow in favor of the state?
Yes.
Is the resolution that we're looking to adopt including include the green and the red and all that? Or
Yeah.
it looks to me like it's sort of out of place, and they're editorializing, is it proper to be in a resolution like that?
Well, that was, when we reached out to them, they said we need to tweak it to make it meet what we require, and that's how we wrote it. Got back to me, actually, this morning.
And one last thing, the chief is okay with it, obviously, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, the chief had some issues, he had to attend to at home, he couldn't be here tonight, but he did review it. His biggest concern was about the lights having battery backup, which you see is part of the resolution.
Yeah, in one of the earlier meetings with DOT, there was a question about a PSE&G gas line that is under the bridge. We did some research into it, including reach out to PSE&G, and that is not an active gas line. It is just a pipe hung up by straps. It is not an active PSE&G line. There's no gas service down Rattlesnake Bridge Road.
I think that's what John said last week, our last meeting, right?
Oh, was that last meeting?
Yeah.
All right, we had that confirmation.
Just leave.
Right.
Not to be a fly in the ointment here, but John, what's your take on having in the resolution that the Township Committee is considering editorialization from the DOT about what they're okay with and what they've agreed to?
It doesn't bother me because they need this, it's the state. If they want it, you have to give it to them.
Doug, you still seem troubled. You want to talk about the language itself?
Well, yeah, I mean, when they say in conclusion, we have no objection to the acceleration of the work, are they saying that that's for us to say, or is that the NJDOT saying to us, we, the DOT, don't have an objection?
This is our resolution to them. They said that the resolution had to say certain things for them to accept.
Okay, so the we in here is us.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see though in the second green there, when the traffic signals are upgraded, they will have the ability to be supplied by power through a generator to be supplied and operated by local officials. We trust that the signal upgrade satisfies the statement referencing a backup power for traffic utilities. I just afraid, you get down the line here and there's different TC looking at this thing, and this to me seems like it's NJDOT editorializing, and I don't know, maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but it seems odd.
Judy, that language, I guess that second green area, that came directly from DOT?
That's what they gave me, yes. I spoke with Megan Backler on Friday, and she said this was back and forth between 3 different departments before they agreed on this work.
So Don, the signal upgrade and the power to be supplied through a generator operated by local officials,
It's not us.
that's not us.
It's DOT.
That's DOT.
The chief requested at the beginning of this to have some kind of battery backup within the system because when the power goes off, he has to supply signal out signs out in that general area. And he doesn't supply traffic officers. So his request was to put battery backups in. I don't believe that the DOT ever has any kind of battery backup systems in here, but they can supply it for a hookup to a generator for an extended period of time. And I think that's what they're going to probably provide.
I guess the question is, do we trust that signal? That's really what as long as, if we're saying
Otherwise,
it,
in our
make sure that we're
resolution,
saying,
and
yeah.
we adopted
Yeah,
it,
make sure we're
and
saying.
everything they say, we blessed, and we said, okay.
So,
The issue, that last sentence, we trust that the signal upgrade, if that sentence is deleted,
Or just change it to, after local officials, comma, which shall address the need for a, quote, backup power for traffic utilities.
If anything, we should not be providing any kind of backup or power supply to that. It should be the DOT should be providing that on an emergency basis.
The generator,
Generator.
so the way this is written, they have us doing it.
Right.
I don't think we want to lock ourselves into that one.
And what's the timeline on this? Do we have to?
They were hoping to get it by the 20th, which would be Friday.
How about the 27th?
We could change the wording and.
we just want the
Yeah,
power.
Mayor decided another time.
So we can agree on the general, we can, generally vote on the general meaning, but we can wordsmith it a bit more.
Ability to be supplied by power through a generator to be supplied and operated.
I think you could say through a generator and then include or battery comma, which, and you can pick it up, shall satisfy the need for a backup power.
Well, this is really only for backup power supply.
Right.
So right now, the signals are tied into the grid. So this is really just for the backup power. So this is a little, the language coming in from DOT is a little inartfully drafted.
At the end of the day, it's fine as long as we're not maintaining that we're going to supply a generator backup power at all. So we don't want to be doing that.
Which right now the language would imply.
Yeah. Chief, see this?
Did the chief agree to it?
I don't
He's the
know.
one who requested it,
Yeah,
so
he requested it.
if he didn't, he needs to agree to it, and if he agrees to it, then fine. If not, it needs to be changed.
You know, actually what they're saying is that if you take out to be supplied and operated by local officials, when traffic signals are upgraded, they will have the ability to be supplied by power through a generator, period.
Yeah, why don't we just leave it at that?
Yeah, leave it at
Never
that.
matter, it doesn't matter.
Then get rid of
which
to be
one.
supplied and operated by local officials.
You could even take out.
You
the
can take
sentence.
out the we
Yeah,
trust.
yeah,
We don't-
Right, we
Yep.
don't need it.
Yeah, that's not,
Right.
Should just put a period after generator?
Right, well, so, you know, obviously the point is if there's a power outage and signal at Rattlesnake and 78 is out, that there will be some ability to operate the signals. Someone's going to have to supply the power, right? So whether that's coming from Bedminster, from the county, or from DOT, or state police, someone's going to be operating that. And I think if we just leave it at that, it satisfies,
So just period after
Yeah,
generator?
period after
leave it at that,
generator.
And not necessarily indicate
Right.
the supplying
Mhm.
power? Okay, I
And
can
ju-
make that adjustment.
Just a clarification, all that equipment does not even belong to any of the municipalities. It's not on a municipal roadway. It's either on a county roadway or a state highway, so it's nothing to do with us. Should have nothing to do with us, other than what this chief suggested, that during an emergency, they have to go out there and put signage up, and it's very difficult for them to get all the way out there, set up signage, and then also to, you know, if we have a large-scale event, be over here also.
but if there's some other local outage, and that, you know, frankly, whether it's the police or DPW can get out there before anyone else, and we have the authority to do so, then put the signal back up.
If we have access to the
If we have that, right. So
So this way it's,
I think it takes out the language that DOT was putting on the municipality and just makes it, hey, you can replace it. You can hook up someone can hook up a generator to put that thing back online,
Right.
whoever that someone may be.
And not to be incredibly picky, but if we go to the green section above, can you tell me whether any of those issues, the way it's written, were discussed or agreed to? It seems to me that they're discounting and disqualifying, disclaiming, whatever the word is, all of this stuff. The way I read this, they're basically saying resurfacing, widening, reconstruction of the channeled islands, traffic signal upgrades, none of that was discussed, and whether it was included in the contractor's proposal.
It is.
But the way this is written,
It is
it
not.
basically says that none of that stuff was discussed or as part of the contract. So again, I don't want to be adopting a resolution where we're confirming, then we're agreeing that none of this stuff's part of the contractor's
so the
contract.
original resolution I sent to them as a sample did not include stage 1A, 1B, 2, 3, stage 3, like that, that's what they put in that had this big back and forth, because they want, in their proposal, the mayor was at the meeting, they had a very strict, you know, stage 1, stage 1A, stage 1B, but they were referring to what was going on in the contract. So I think they wanted that enumerated somehow in the resolution.
But see, the issue that I have is where you have the state contracting with an entity to do the work. Then you have a resolution from the municipality where the state is asking us to agree what is or is not happening in their contract, and we're not a party to it. And this could potentially hurt us if we're essentially agreeing that the contractor has no obligation to do resurfacing, widening, reconstructing the channels on the islands or traffic signal upgrades. Now, it's not our street, it's a county street,
Strange
but...
language, it's almost like an admission.
Yeah, I mean, why is this, it's rhetorical, but why is this even in here? It seems to me that the last sentence, we have no objection to the acceleration of the work, is what they need. All this other stuff just is going to be problematic for us.
I think at our meeting, the objectives would have to be completed in the 4-month purpose, that there'll be other things going on in before the 4 months and after the 4 months that have no bearing on the actual deck replacement, that won't impact the traffic. There's still other parts of the project that we're working on, like you're saying, this widening, reconstruction, channelized islands, traffic signal upgrades, and those are part of the closure, so.
So, for example, the 4-month shutdown is for replacing the decking and then repaving the decking. So that results in a complete shutdown for that 4-month period. There's other elements of the project, paving Rattlesnake Bridge Road leading up to the bridge, repaving the ramps to 78, from 78 on both sides. Those are not part of it. Doing some work actually below the bridge and some of the islands, actually where the traffic intersection where the light is set, right, that little island right there. There will be some additional work on that and some other improvements that will not affect the shutdown or reopening of the road. So those elements of the project are not impacting the 4-month shutdown and the restart up of the bridge.
So the project isn't just 4 months, it's going to be longer than 4 months with all that work to be done. The deck replacement is a 4-month project.
Right. That's what they're trying to say in that section.
So when Conkus, I mean, to some extent, they're saying, hey, the work may be out there longer than 4 months, so you all know, Bedminster, that there's still work going on out there. So while you signed up for a 4-month accelerated project, if you still see Conkus out there in 5 and 6 months, it's not necessarily the subject of this resolution.
Which is also commented in the Congress letter where he says the other parts of the project will remain the same.
Can we just refer to the letter?
Right.
Rather than,
I believe his current contract that sits right now, so he should be working on some of those widening of the ranch right now, as it stands.
What about if we just, are we free to add some stuff to this? My thought was that the sentence that ends under the contractor's proposal in the third line from the bottom, adding while the road is closed. Under proposal, adding in there, to a certain, while the road is closed, while Rattlesnake Bridge Road is closed.
I think we can approve.
So saying, for the record, if what you're saying is what is intended, for the record, resurfacing and all this other stuff,
That way nobody's under pressure.
it was discussed if this was to be done under the contract's proposal while the bridge is closed. In other words, they're saying, we're going to close the bridge for 4 months, but it's to redo the decking. We're not going to do all this other bells and whistles stuff while it's closed. And if that's what they're saying, then let's be clear about it and say after proposal, while the bridge is closed.
So he's saying all these things to be done under the contract proposal along the bridge.
Are we in agreement for that?
I just have a question now, because they talk about 4 stages, 1A, 1B, 2, and 3, which I assume is what constitutes the 4-month project, and then they immediately say stage 3 isn't in. So, or am I reading that wrong?
Is it maybe the paving for the entire job?
Yeah, I think that they're referring to the resurfacing that doesn't impact the decking or the shutdown.
Got it, got it. They're doing all the resurfacing outside of the actual decking. Yeah, got it.
Okay.
What about resurfacing after, for the record, resurfacing, stage 3? You see that?
Right.
What about resurfacing areas other than the decking?
I don't know what's in stage 3 without the plans.
But if we believe the intent of this is to say, we're only talking 4 months for the decking, we are going to be on site doing other stuff, and you'll see us out there, but we're not telling you we're getting this all done soup to nuts in 4 months. So just say, for the record, resurfacing of areas other than the decking was not discussed as part of the proposal.
You have a meeting on the 27th. We have one last
Correct.
meeting this year.
Yes.
Right.
I don't see where you should
7
adopt
days
this
is gonna make a
tonight. I think you need to go back and speak to these folks over the next week or so and tell them that you could get it done on the 27th. Because you just have too many questions about this to adopt it
I mean,
tonight.
it'll be what it'll be. I know the county, they have their meeting tomorrow night, and they were not ready to do it tomorrow night, so they don't know when they're doing theirs, and they need the counties as well.
So they need, and the county is waiting on us first?
No, the county
No,
wants to
she's
know
saying we have time.
Well, so the county
what our
doesn't,
opinion is.
okay, I thought earlier you said that the county was waiting on us, and then they were
The
going to,
the county wanted to hear that we were
Okay.
doing our resolution, which I sent them a copy of this, and they're going to use it as a sample. But their meeting is tomorrow night, and they're not ready to do this tomorrow. Their agenda was already complete.
so if they're not doing it tomorrow,
So we can, as Mr. Glotto said, we can probably do it till the 27th.
because they probably don't, do they even have another meeting in December?
Judy, I'm happy to get on the phone with these folks that you're talking to, just to talk this stuff through. It probably sounds like we're making more of it than it needs to be, but it just needs to be a little bit clearer.
I have the person that said if there were questions to call her.
Okay. Yeah, let me know. I'll jump on the phone.
Okay. All right. We'll defer that one.
All right, to be redrafted.
And Judy, why don't you send it to me as well, because I'll take out words like "we" and put the township.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, let's move to the next resolution, Resolution 2019-133. Resolution appointing a plumbing, building, and fire inspector. Ms. Sullivan?
The building inspector will be out a couple days between now and the end of the year. Our normal substitute building inspector is also going to be away. So construction official came to me today and asked if we could appoint a second substitute building inspector who has worked for us before, but is currently not on our roster. We'd only be using him on an as-needed basis because the construction official would be not available. So,
Same rate?
his recommendation, to have him available if there was need.
Same rate we pay other folks?
Actually less than.
And this one is available.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes.
All right, any other questions or comments for Ms. Sullivan on this?
I only found that out today when we were comparing,
No?
schedules.
No?
We
You're
found
good?
out that the backup guy wasn't available, so we needed to grab this guy.
Now we have a motion to approve Resolution 2019-133.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Dickey?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci? Aye. Ms. Marevsky?
Aye.
Mayor King?
Aye.
Thank you.
We have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices.
So moved.
Second?
Again,
Second.
roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Dickey?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Ms. Marevsky?
Aye.
Mayor King?
Aye.
Thank you.
Discussion items, are there any matters that the Township Committee wants to put up for discussion? Seeing none, we will move to new business. So, Doug, this is something that we started discussing earlier, which is the island-mounted fuel controller.
Yes, Mayor. Yes, this goes back to the issue that I was mentioning earlier with my report, that our fuel pump is not operational, and we obviously need it. We've got DPW that fills up out there, we've got the police fills up, first aid?
Yeah,
First
fire.
aid fills up,
And fire.
fire, so fuel's got to flow. But again, I think that, and Colin, I don't want to speak for you, jump in if you'd like to, but, we did take our rep, the vendor, through all the options. And why is it that this is our best option? What is it about the other ones we don't like? Why is this better? And in sum and substance, the online support, the ability to put up in the cloud, the ability to avoid having to run a separate dedicated line, and just the vendor's experience in putting these things in. He's adamant that this is our best option. There are other, there is another program out there, another manufacturer with a similar type product, but the online service, according to the vendor, it pales in comparison. So, I think we get 1 year's worth of free monitoring, right?
Correct.
And then we can decide whether we actually use it, and if we don't use it, we can cut our monthly fee down a little bit if we don't use online support.
There is going to be an annual fee that we're going to incur on the system.
And that was the $600?
$600.
$600.
Correct.
Are we paying an annual fee now?
No. But we don't have any upgrades to anything.
And so the
Because-
fee is for which part of the service?
So it's for for email support, access to the fuel serve, which is the cloud-based system, and a cell modem fee.
Part of that gets us out of the IT management of the infrastructure, which is one of the bugaboos. And as we were talking with the vendor, he's talking about the fact that today, some of the systems available, the support is overseas, response time is abysmal. The other thing I liked about this was the fact that the vendor is actually local, so if there's a need for parts,
Princeton.
they're in Princeton. You drive down to Princeton, you got the part. And one thing we really pushed the vendor on was, hey, you've installed a bunch of these systems from a bunch of different vendors. How's it been? And he's like, look, I've seen the worst and the best of them. I think this is the best of them. I've already installed a couple dozen systems. They're working. They work without a problem.
Yeah, in fact, just that you had reminded me, I think there's the county has several of one of the alternate systems, and he's ripping them out because the displays are all going yellow and you can't see through them. So our other option here is already being replaced by other entities out there. So why go down that road? We have the other product. So.
And one more thing, the online system, which has reporting capabilities, you could have Sarah log into a web browser, pull up, see who's consuming fuel. You can run all kinds of reports. If in fact you wanted to price the fuel differently for some affiliated organizations like fire and first aid, you could do that. You can look at their consumption. So it gives you a powerful tool, and it's web-based, which is obviously where the industry is going.
And John, what do you do for diesel? What vehicle?
The same system will run the diesel.
The same system will run gasoline and the diesel?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And what are some of the other municipalities? Does Far Hills, they go to?
Far Hills actually uses the pumps at Natterar, or at the county facility across from Natterar, I think is where they're getting their fuel from. I don't know how they charge or whatever, but it's a very small system, so I don't know how they keep track of that. Far Hills used to come to us for fuel, and they decided not to. I guess we were too
We
convenient.
used to see Far Hills fuel up over, at least their police vehicles used to see them over by the Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
No, they were just going to the Dunkin' Donuts.
It could be too.
So the fuel management system we installed in 2008 was based on, we were buying gas at a local gas station, was the Shell, I believe, at the time, and the prices were just too high. So we, in order to bring that back into house, we had to add another tank and add a fuel management system to control all that at that point in time.
And the reason I'm just asking those questions is because is that time for re-examination for the $22,500 that we're paying to upgrade the system. Do we receive the $22,500 benefit by keeping it in-house as opposed to going to the local.
Our fuel costs are very low. Our per gallon cost is very, very low through the co-ops we're paying.
Yeah, we get it through the co-op.
That's public record. I mean, that's, what do you pay?
Right.
You pay what, $1.91?
Yeah, something like
Cool.
that. It's very cheap.
Right.
So we're not paying, and if we were using the local fuel facilities,
You'll-
we'd be paying,
Pump price,
Rack
but
rates.
you do get a reduction. We have gotten a reduction, so there was percentages.
but you're already
taken off.
starting out with what we know, let's face it, is overpriced fuel
Correct.
in Bedminster to begin with. So even getting the discount, you're still, there's a big enough delta between what you're doing on our wholesale rate that a discounted retail rate still doesn't make sense for us. So that I'm just going to get around to that, the 22,500 remains justifiable as opposed to going back to local vendors.
Correct.
Have we talked about EV cars in the future? I mean, because if we're going all to electric, then
These
our
are
yearly basis.
these are DPW,
Oh,
these are
okay.
fire trucks, I don't
Those won't
know.
go electric?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They will at some point, at some point.
When we do this next time, that's when we don't need
That's
it.
no
I want to see what
fun.
happens with
Fire
the
truck.
salt in this car, some of the vehicles.
Well, your fire truck.
That's very loud.
So the key parts to this is that the system itself, it's a beta system, it's a state contract from a local vendor. The vendor is located in Burnsville, that's where his shop is. His business is run out of Bridgewater. The parts, the equipment from the fuel management system is produced in Princeton, so it's a very local product. It does not have a chip, so right now we have chip readers, that's what the thing is. So we're going to go from a chip reader to more of a key fob, which is proximity type. We're still going to have our PIN numbers that we generally have. So it's a PIN number that each individual employee has, plus a fob that's associated with the vehicle, so you can't put diesel in a gas car.
Yeah, didn't he mention, like, you know, you have, when you go to, I know Exxon has it, the Express
Yep.
thing, where you have the little scanner?
Mm-hmm.
A similar type thing, so everybody will have just a little,
And that's part of the,
Keypad.
that's part of that annual
Yes.
service fee?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's been a point of failure now. Because you don't have a contactless system right now, you got to plug your thing in, the pins are getting bent, the
Right.
keypad itself has failed. So we're eliminating points of failure at the same time.
Okay. So I think, look, from my perspective, I think what Doug and Colin and John just described satisfies my comments on justifying the 22,500. So with that, if anyone else has further questions, and Renee, the question about, you know, essentially as we transition eventually to more electric, we're still seeing the 22,500 savings. It sounds like the answer is yes.
Okay.
Any questions, comments further?
And we have it in our capital improvement plan. It's already,
Was this something that you were anticipating replacing
No.
eventually? Well, eventually.
Eventually, yes.
Okay.
It was coming to that point. I mean, I've gotten a number of phone calls with problems with the pump in itself, with the keypad, so forth and so on. So it was coming to a head anyway. It's just escalated to this point, at this point in time. Currently, we have a $40,000 capital improvement plan. I apologize to Judy because I forgot about that one extensively. So it was part of a facilities plan anyway, so we have the money to do this at this point in time, so.
And you don't want to wait till complete failure.
Correct.
That would be problematic for fire, first aid, police.
The lead time, I think, is a couple months out anyway, so it's not like it can be done tomorrow. So
Okay.
I think the quicker we do it, the quicker, the better. it will
Get the
be.
resolution, get a PO to him, and, you know, he'll get started on it. We've got some homework to do on our side, but we're ready to go.
Okay. May we have a motion to approve Resolution 2019-131?
So moved?
Second?
Roll call vote again, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mr. Marquardt?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. And while we're on new business, I recently, just now, received an email about New Jersey American Water filing an application with BPU for a rate increase. So timely for new business.
Is there a contact person on the bottom of that email?
This came from David Meyer over at American Water. I'll forward this over to you.
Yeah, if you would, that's not the person I was dealing with, so.
Right, and we'll also forward a copy of this to Bill Mosca, our utility attorney, to look into it and see whether or not this is something that Bedminster should intervene in opposing a water rate increase. So to be continued, and Judy, I guess for the next meeting, let's just keep, once I distribute this around, this New Jersey American water rate case under new business. Which brings us to old business and short-term rentals.
I have nothing new at this time for open session.
Doug, any developments you've seen on the legal end other than what we talked
No,
about last
Mayor.
time with Jersey City? John?
Just that, Mayor, no?
No, the zoning official continues to pursue illegal rentals of apartments in zones where they're not permitted.
Okay. Engine braking.
Mayor, no update, except that
No.
the sign is there.
Sign is there, it's back?
Oh, actually,
It was down,
It was
right.
down, right.
We had to move it for, we used it for the unfortunate accident,
Right.
serious accident
Right,
on
right.
Rattlesnake Ridge
Right.
Road. The police department moved the sign to see if they could get any witnesses to the event that might come forward to speak with the police, so they made.
Do you have any information on that? I know the chief isn't here, but a
We-
one-car accident with significant damage. I had the opportunity to see Ron Kennedy from the fire department literally the next day. He said it was a pretty bad
So
scene.
a resident did come forward who lives out on Rattlesnake Ridge Road, who has some security cameras at the end of their driveway that did capture some information, so that's being reviewed.
Okay. Pluckman Park, I take it no developments with Pluckman Park?
Nothing, no, after the last meeting.
Okay, Colin, JP&L outages.
I did reach out to our rep, Ms. Bianchi, and invited her to come before us in January, February, give us an update on some of the outages we saw in the Halloween timeframe, as well as give us an update on circuit reports and how we're tracking. So we'll work to get that on the calendar.
Right, where there were outages, and I think there were some outages, even small temporary outages.
Saturday night, the power went down for
Yeah.
a few seconds, yeah.
Right,
Right.
right. So once again, we heard the same complaints, and, you know, there's been some action by JCP&L, but the fact that we're still seeing these issues, look, you know, in the big windstorms and the rainstorms,
Right.
you know, you may expect it, you don't want it, but at least you can expect it. But the outages where it's light rain, light wind, or
Right.
no wind,
Those are concerning.
yeah, those concern me. So we will continue to keep this on old business, and we will be visited by JCP&L. And Colin, when that is scheduled, you'll once again outreach to the folks at Four Oaks and Wood
Absolutely.
Duck.
We'll get the word out and get everybody here.
All right, second bite of the apple. The microphone is open for public comment for the second and final opportunity tonight. We still have some members of the public. Someone is giving someone the nudge. So the opportunity to go out there is available.
Good evening, committee.
Now, Ms. Sumner, there is a litigation between you and the municipality. So I'm going to turn to Mr. Bellardo just to give fair warning about statements you may make tonight as may be applied in the litigation. John?
Okay, but there was a lengthy amount of time period where you did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Didn't even have the audacity.
Mayor, if I may speak, point of order. There will be no comment from any members of the governing body or myself, as this involves pending litigation, and we will not answer any questions regarding this litigation or anything else, period.
And I'm sure everybody will have their listening ears on. Mr. Bellato.
You have 3 minutes. The clerk will keep the time, won't you, Ms. Sullivan? At the end of the 3 minutes, so indicate.
Well, as Mr. Bellato said, Mr. Jacobs, I am very disappointed in you and the entire committee to sit here and think that you are so affluent that homelessness will not bother you. You will not return a phone call. You will not send me a reply email, other than the fact to go along the lines of what Mr. Bellardo had stated, that you are in pending litigation. However, the time before I had spoken or attempted to address this before litigation, you didn't even have the decency to call me or return my phone calls, and I find that very disturbing. Not to mention unconscionable that you would allow one of your residents to be homeless and maintain homelessness when the municipality, whom of which displaced me, is supposed to ensure that their residents who are displaced are given the resources that they're entitled to. And I am absolutely disgusted that anybody here would sit and nominate Mr. Jacobs for re-election. And I am calling for him to resign, because I think what he is doing is absolutely disgraceful to the town, the community, and the people in which he was voted in to work for, such as myself, even though I am still displaced. So, Mr. Jacobs, I think, in my personal opinion, which I'm rightfully entitled to, that I think he should resign and step down for the unconscionable act in which you have allowed me to maintain homelessness because of your officials' displacement of my residents. And also to address Ms. Sullivan and her statement in which and also everybody should be ashamed by the deliberate misrepresentations in the papers in which you forwarded to the court. Ms. Sullivan, especially. Because some of the statements in which you signed were absolutely ridiculous and had absolutely nothing to do with what I am going and seeking from the township. So I think everybody should remember the time of the season in which we're in. I am homeless. I was homeless for Thanksgiving. I was homeless, or will be homeless, continuously for Christmas. Hopefully, if the court favors the motion in which I put forth in front of them against the township, that you all remember how my holidays have been disrupted while you're all home staying with your families and can hide behind a cloak with a township attorney knowing that this is going on. And I'm absolutely disgusted. I have nothing further, Mr. Bellardo.
But I do have one thing to say. I'm the victim. And I don't feel it right that this gentleman finds it funny. Because I am a woman. It's hard for a woman to be homeless, okay? I am from Princeton, New Jersey. Got accepted at a prep school when I went co-ed, college educated. I'm not just I don't drink, never have, not on drugs, never have, okay? So I just wanted to be known, if I'm wasting this gentleman's time, I'm very sorry, okay? This is a serious situation, and it's a sad situation. I can't even thank you. Sorry. I mean, I was hoping somebody could do something. I mean, being a mayor of the town, can't you do something?
He chooses not to.
That's not the point, Caitlin. I'm asking a direct question to a person. Can you help me in any way? Or direct me in any way?
Any comments, John, that we can make?
I have none, other than the township has maintained that there's the township has maintained there's no legal obligation to provide assistance here, and ultimately a judge will decide who is right and who is wrong.
I didn't get a word of that. Could you tell me what it is?
John, you want
The
to...
judge will decide who is right and who is wrong.
On Friday at 9 a.m.
Friday.
Well, they don't
Well, I still don't find it funny. Do you find this funny?
I have no comment, ma'am.
Well, the officials, Smurfs, speak volumes. I don't know.
If there are no further public comments, we'll move to Township Committee comments. And we'll go with Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. My only comment is I just had a look at the agenda. I see at the bottom here a note from Mr. Anderson. And I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Anderson for your 17 years of service, and we'll miss you and wish you the best. I'm going to save my comments for Committeewoman Santucci for our next meeting, but I know we're winding down to the end, and we are thinking about you, Stacy, and you'll be missed. But we'll give you our platitudes next time.
That will be lovely. Looking
No
forward
further
to it.
comments.
Platitudes, you can put that on the agenda. Platitudes
Platitudes
for
for Stacy.
for the bill-paying meeting. Mr. Hickey?
Can I say what he said?
Yes.
Okay, so
You
let's
can.
say. Thank you, Mayor. No other comments.
Happy holidays, everybody, because the next meeting is the 27th, so just after Hanukkah, after Christmas, so happy holidays. Yeah. And I'll save my comments for you guys. till the 27th.
Which may or may not be platitudes.
There'll be something to,
There'll be some toots. Ms. Mareski?
And as a liaison to EC, I just want to thank Tim Walter once again for doing such a great job this year and helping the farmers market. And we will miss you. And happy holidays, everyone.
Okay, thank you. There's something I should have mentioned, I think, at our earlier meeting, which is on Thanksgiving morning, we got word that Louis Piancone passed away. Mr. Piancone, longtime Bedminster resident. For those who don't know, he immigrant from Italy and built up what eventually became Roma Foods, a longtime resident in Pottersville, and certainly one of the more noteworthy properties we have in town, with the white picket fence as you head into Pottersville, and the carriage trails. And Mr. Piancone was certainly active in the equestrian community and really maintaining and being an anchor for that western part of Bedminster. And we extend our condolences to the Piancone family, and are glad that we had the opportunity to have Mr. Piancone in our presence during that time. And I will say, my last meeting with Mr. Piancone was at the farmers market, so it was great to see him there. And once again, condolences to his family. We do have an executive session this evening, and we may be taking action following the executive session. So if anyone wants to certainly stick around. Ms. Fernandez, you are invited to the executive session with us, and we will return afterwards. May we have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved. Second.
All right. Thank you.
Aye.
We'll be back in a bit.
Good evening.
We're back.
Yes.
It is 10:07, and Township Committee has returned to open session from our closed executive session, and as indicated earlier, we may be taking action, and we do have a matter to consider, which is Resolution 2019-132. This resolution appoints Stephen Dill as new fire official beginning January 1, 2020. Any questions or comments that have not otherwise been addressed? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve Resolution 2019-132?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you, and happy holidays.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, make a motion to adjourn. Make a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I'll second.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays,
December
everybody.
27th for Bill Payne.
Bill.
Bill pay meeting.
Yes. 4 o'clock.
Committeewoman Santucci. 10.
4 o'clock.
We'll see you then.
It's the 27th?
For you?